hopefully make this something y'all can learn from. We're sitting at the table just like y'all. We're practitioners. We want to make this interactive. We're going to be walking through some slides and presentations, but if at any point you got questions, feel free to shout them out, or maybe someone will run around with a mic. We will have a more official, formal Q&A at the end, so don't hesitate to throw us some curveballs at the end as well if you want to test our mettle. Today I have the distinct privilege of being up here with Andi Seabeck. So I'll let you, my name is Nick Haase. I'm one of the co-founders here of MaintainX. We'll talk a little bit about what that is in a moment, but I'll let Andi kind of introduce herself as well.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Andi Seabeck with CamCode, and we are more than honored to be in partnership with MaintainX and supplying not only your vertical, but others efficient ways to manage your assets.
Awesome. So a couple learning objectives, things we want you to walk out of here knowing is how poor data quality is the number one barrier to AI adoption and maintenance. Why QR codes are the foundation for reliable asset data collection. How to leverage digital asset identification to reduce MTTR, which is mean time to repair, and enable AI. And for those of you who know, I know we have different levels of knowledge here. AI, artificial intelligence, just in case we're going to see that word a few times here, so clear that up right out of the gate. We do have a quick disclaimer here. I'm with MaintainX, obviously as a co-founder, and Andy's with CamCode, so the show wanted us to make sure we shared that. So why do AI-enabled workflows matter, and why are we here? Well, there's, just in the manufacturing industry alone, there's going to be $3.7 trillion of value in the next 4 years added, 4 or 5 years. 72% site parts and shipping costs is a major pain point. 50% of reliability professionals are going to be retiring in the next 10 years, aging out of the workforce. And only 40% of facilities have a majority of their maintenance done with preventive maintenance. We'll cover a little bit about what each of these things mean, but you're being asked to do more with less, and you're not likely going to get a lot more resources to be able to support. So we're going to hopefully help you understand how to leverage some of the latest and greatest in technology in a way that's accessible, but also provides value and helps you kind of get over that hump. Some of the common challenges that operational leaders face: wrong asset serviced, right? Raise your hand if that's ever happened in your organization today. Got a few hands up, yeah. They're missing the maintenance history. Does anybody in here have a full maintenance log of everything that's been done? Show of hands. Yeah, not a lot of hands. Incorrect parts ordered. Anybody ever ordered the wrong part? Ever happen? See a lot of heads nodding, see some hands going up. And duplicate records. Anybody realize they've doubled up on what they're working on? Yeah, these are all things that are incredibly common, hence the title, but they're also solvable. And we're going to walk through kind of how that's solved today. And before we kind of go into this next step here, I want to quick show of hands. How many of y'all have ever used an AI tool at all? ChatGPT, anything like that? It's outstanding. If we asked this question a year ago, I bet maybe a third of those hands go up. So this is all kind of coming at us quick, but it's good to see we're in a room full of early adopters. People are testing, seeing what's new. How many of you are using AI every day as it relates to your job? That's great. So we're starting to see some folks adopting it. And so we got a good room, Andy. So we're going to talk about how you build a digital thread with QR codes. And that's kind of a fancy word for just saying we're going to track it digitally. So we're going to talk about how that's a traditional process, is finding an asset, manually identifying it, searching your documentation, looking up the history, and then beginning the work. And what we're going to show you and talk through is how you can leverage QR codes to just scan a code, access all the information you need, and begin the work. It sounds really simple when you kind of lay it out like that. It should. But maybe the next question is how? How does that work? And we're going to get into that. We're going to talk to 3 steps to how you develop AI and automated workflows, how we're going to build that extensible data foundation, how we're going to empower your technicians, folks on your front lines, and how we're going to standardize data and work across all your sites. Whether you have one site or you've got many, this workflow is something that can be done businesses and operations of all sizes. So building that extensible data foundation, it starts by helping you drive intelligent decision-making with a reliable way to collect, centralize, and analyze data. So you'll see here, a few different acronyms that you may or may not have familiarity with, and that's okay, but The main thing you need to understand is that we're capturing information and data from across your operation, wherever it is. A lot of this is very siloed today, if it exists at all. You're not connected, and it's creating bottlenecks that you may not even be aware of. And so that's sort of the first step, is understanding what's our current state, what do we have, and what can we do better. When you empower your technicians, and this is sort of the second piece of that, right? Helping them create processes that make it easy to consistently record their work, their inspections, their parts usage in a more standardized way, in a format that is, useful to them where they're doing the work, a mobile device here. And we're going to make it super easy. Make it easy to leverage AI voice transcriptions. One of the things about AI is it's going to look a little bit intimidating. It's like, where do we start? One of the things that's sort of a core design principle for what we do is we try to inject AI throughout the product, our products, in a way that make it native and seamless, so that you don't feel like you're having to learn a new thing. It's sort of a natural extension of the work you'd already be doing. And then we're going to help you standardize data and work across all your sites so that we can improve reliability, make smarter budget decisions, and unlock real-time insights. So we can identify, in a perfect world, you might be able to replace everything in your facility every year. But how many of y'all have that kind of budget to do that? Yeah, right? So we've got to make smart decisions. We've got to understand which assets are causing us the most pain, and where do we spend the limited resources that we do have to make things better, so that we can predict future performance. Now, selecting the right label for the job. Andi, you want to kick this off?
Yeah, so I know a lot of people, when you think of labels, it's an Avery label you think of, or we're going to run down to Office Depot. But whenever we're looking at budgets, we're looking at thousands of assets. And for many of you, and I've gotten a chance to introduce and meet some of you, you have multiple locations. You have systems that aren't integrated across the board. You don't want to be doing this over and over. You want to do it correctly the first time and have the tags last the life of your assets. And so when you're selecting the right label, whether you're familiar with labels or not, being able to understand the substrate, the environment, and what type of label goes on those items is very important, because basically it's going to standardize your operating procedures. And especially with, again, multiple assets, multiple departments, you need standardization so that when new people come in, there's a playbook to go by. So, label considerations. I always tell people, you didn't think labels were going to be this involved, but it is more involved than your Starbucks order in the morning. It's just not black coffee. We need to be able to think about the substrate, how it's coated. We need to be thinking about heat. We need to be thinking about corrosion. You need to be thinking about the lighting, how you're going to read the label. Is it a curved surface? Do we need to anneal the product? Because again, we want to be doing this one time. We want a one and done to improve our audit protections, to make sure that the tags don't fall off, to make sure we're staying in compliance, and that we can utilize the CMMS system the way it's supposed to be used.
Perfect. And how many of y'all have asset labels of any kind today? Any kind of QR codes of any sort? All right, so about maybe 10-15% of y'all. It's great.
If you think about also with the labels themselves, your disconnected teams, if you don't have everything properly labeled, it leads to downtime, and downtime affects your budget. So what we have been talking about here quickly was the label, material, and attachment. We have different attachment methods, whether you're doing an adhesive, you're riveting, you're doing a combination of both. Each of the substrates, contingent, is from plastics to metals. You can have a combination. It can be your IT department. And our verticals, we work from manufacturing to healthcare to education and everything in between. But the biggest thing is being able to have those stay on so that you can complete your work orders in a timely manner. You can read them. You can find them. If you're outside, you don't want to be dealing with labels that fade due to UV. You want to have a longevity in those and the performance. Surfaces to be labeled. If you can't see it, you can't manage it, right? So whenever you're thinking of a playbook and the reliability and how it directly affects your assets, you need to be able to understand the different conditions, the lighting, like I said, outside, inside, UV, and really in speaking with one of the individuals on our team and us understanding that it's not a cookie cutter and how it's going to affect your scanners, your professionals in the field. And let's be clear, if they can't read it easily and they have to do a lot of paperwork, is it getting done? Is it getting tracked? We want to make it easy and where it's efficient and where they can actually access the data from different parts and departments. The label material. So we offer a lot of different varieties in this, whether you're looking at steel, anodized aluminum, polyester, and it is important to know what material to use based on the substrate. We don't want to create corrosion by putting two different metals on each other. We need to know the type of backing, that type of thing, because we do, again, want it to last the life of the asset. I tease our marketing team almost every meeting we have because we're on the International Space Station, and I tell them, flaunt this. If we're we can take care of the moon and space, we can take care of assets, but really knowing the different material and why it's important, because the durability factor.
Have any of y'all ever had a label fall off or be unreadable? Yeah, it's a big deal.
Attachment method, and I hit on this quickly a while ago, but you do have different ones for different environments. Some environments, the heat won't allow you to have an adhesive, or if you're a lot of oil or debris, welding. If you have different departments, I know this is education, so you might have shop classes, you might have labs, you might have different environments where an adhesive isn't going to be effective. You can utilize rivets, you can do a combination of both, you can use hang tags, but the most important thing is understanding what you're looking at, how it's going to work with your program and your techs, and then being able to apply those in the best manner. When talking with people on the size of the label, it really is just going to be contingent on the asset itself. It's going to be contingent on what you're looking at, if you're wanting to standardize across the board, or if it's going to be based off the different assets and do more of a, this large one is going to be for our HVAC units. We're going to have this type for our laptops, Chromebooks. I have a plethora of children, and I see what those Chromebooks go through and the beating they take. I don't know if you can read the label on them after a couple of months, but just understanding what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis and the different type of asset. How many assets, which one? This is going to be set by your department. It's going to be tailored to, is it a fixed dollar amount? Is it based off of department? Is it going to be based off what is being regulated or monitored for any type of funding, whether government, grant? A lot of the times, if you aren't tracking the maintenance on these assets, it can affect your funding. So you need to be able to show those logs. You need to have it where the assets are properly tagged so that you can track it in your CMMS system so that you can show all the maintenance that's being done to continue with funding or regulations or audits as they come across.
Yeah. So what you're going to find out is that one of the things we've unlocked together is that QR codes create the foundation for that accurate asset identification, that make sure you have quality data collection, reliable analytics, and effective AI implementation. And so we'll talk a little bit about how does AI start to make its way into this conversation. Well, one of the things that's really important to understand is that if you aren't capturing good quality data and you aren't capturing it accurately, then that is the foundation under which AI it works on. So the reason you can go to ChatGPT and ask it to do something silly, maybe have it write a song about facilities management in the style of Taylor Swift, is because all that information is online, right? You can find all of her songs and all of this music theory, but if you think about how much of the information around your operation is online, probably very little. If you ask it for specific questions around how does my business work or how does my operation work, it's going to give you very surface level information. So you need to be able to capture this information correctly and log it so that we can build a data foundation that AI can work from and build on. So, as we talk about empowering your technicians, we want to be able to leverage machine learning and AI to streamline and simplify maintenance for your technicians. so that they know what work needs to be done, how they do that work, and how they can optimize these workflows and resources. Today, you have the ability to leverage, we have a tool called Copilot that makes it to where anybody can just ask questions to your assets, and they don't need to be an expert. I can say, why is this thing rattling? I don't even need to know the right fancy words, right? And we're going to make some of the tools that are available today are helping your technicians do more with less. They can do more effective and efficient work with less skills and knowledge than maybe the folks you'd like to be able to bring on your team. And we're going to help them prioritize the most important work. So if we can build a preventive maintenance plan that makes it clear where technicians spend their time, you're going to be able to improve their work execution and data capture. You're going to be able to help trigger condition-based PMs automatically. You're going to be able to make it to where anybody can input values and things like that are going to help trigger these actions, integrate with your SCADA, your IoT, your BMS systems. Help build AI-powered time estimates for work so you can plan and schedule your work. And then help identify pattern recognition across similar assets. If you've got 50 plus HVACs of the same make and model, you should be able to learn from each of them and aggregate, not having to know each and every one of them individually, and tackle, play whack-a-mole. And then we can even get to a position where we're doing early detection of issues with anomaly detection as well. And so we can get ahead of those costly issues early. And then the third part here is we want to improve communication. For those of you who have a lot of similar assets, how do you make sure that you're going and doing work on the right asset? And how do you make sure that the folks that are flagging issues are flagging it on the right asset? So often I work with customers, and one of the issues that's incredibly common is, we go and somebody reports an issue with, the boiler or this, and then somebody, our technician goes down there and is like, oh, it's all fine, but they were looking at the wrong boiler, or they were looking at the wrong HVAC. And so making sure that people can, with the QR code, you can have that contextual information so that even the people reporting the issues don't have to guess how this is labeled or named in your systems, and make it really easy for them to accurately tag and catalog the issues at hand. And when we do that, we're keeping everybody on the same page. And then, as we're helping people become more efficient with the time by reducing this time to repair, improving communication, we're going to help you make sure that you get the team for the work that you need to complete so that we can maximize your team resources. We can see your team capacity at a glance. We can help you make data-driven decisions to improve capacity if you need to, or at least have a data-driven case, even if you're not able to do that right out of the gate. And then also help you balance the workload to make sure that people are working on the right work the most important work at the right time, so that we can get ahead of your blind spots. Now, third step here is to standardize your data and work across all sites. And this is where QR codes come into play, is we're going to help make sure that the right procedures are always attached to the right assets. We're going to make sure that we're actually tracking the use of the procedures and the work that's being done on this equipment. We're going to use AI-assisted procedure updates based on actual usage patterns. Build global visibility of all of your facilities so you can see the status of everything from a single page. Standardize your best practices and build SOPs that are actually easy to keep up to date and across all of your sites, and coordinate your resources from one site to another. And so standardizing SOPs and ensuring compliance. This is helping, how many of y'all are currently using SOPs in your facility? Probably everyone, right? How many of y'all have ever had an issue where somebody's using an outdated version, or maybe not using the most correct version? When you're doing this digitally, we can make sure that you're automatically deploying and everybody's using the most current, up-to-date version of that procedure and an SOP at all times. Build out automatic corrective actions so that when something's flagged in those procedures, then somebody's automatically notified and it's flagged so that somebody goes and addresses that issue. We can build out procedure scorecards so that you can understand which of our sites are performing better than others based on whatever variety of metrics is important to your business. And then build in conditional logic so that we can actually say, if this is happening, then tell them the following work instructions. Again, all in service of helping standardize work and helping people get work done faster. And now the last part of the standardization component is if you have multiple sites and facilities, sometimes it's a lot easier to be able to share resources from site to site instead of rush order shipping, or maybe the lead time for a part or component is too long. So we can actually help you understand, with QR codes, you can build that single source of truth standardize your parts across all of your sites, maintain accurate parts inventory so that you can see visibility into who has what, who can we go ask for a part before we spend a lot of money rush order shipping it, and reduce that duplication or incorrect parts ordering. Make sure that when you do need to order parts, you're ordering the right part, and it's not the wrong. You don't give anybody the opportunity to fat finger in a name of a part or a piece of equipment wrong. And then we can even help make sure you get alerts when your stock runs low, because we're going to make it really easy for folks to stay on the same page. And so one of the nice things as well, when you think about what the standardization journey brings you, is it gives you that ability to compare and contrast site-to-site performance. How are folks doing work? Why are some sites performing better than others? Is there a training issue? Is there a resource issue? Is there maybe an area where those assets are significantly older, and now we can make a data-driven case to focus some resources on those sites? By pinpointing your best facilities and documenting their best practices, you may be able to help make the rest of your facilities a lot better, and do this from a data-driven perspective rather than an ad hoc, whoever your best manager is. And QR codes are going to help you understand and monitor your asset utilization rates, your procedure compliance, your time to repair trends, and your parts usage tracking, and help you identify those organization-wide trends really easily. So, with MaintainX, we're really about modern maintenance management, because we think the future of maintenance is not just about AI, it's about building the right foundation for AI to succeed. And so that starts with reliable data, with a collection starting at the asset level. And so your key takeaways here for our session today is that data quality is your foundation. That data quality journey starts with QR codes so that you're tracking and capturing the data correctly and you're entering it right out of the gate. Every scan and every work that you're doing, every work order that's completed or work request that's entered into your system is helping build that AI data foundation that you need. And so as you think about what is the value of recording every little reactive work order, that's really, really critical to building your AI foundation. There used to be it used to be kind of difficult to make that case. Why do we need to record every little thing? The answer today is you have to, because that's how you're going to be able to leverage these AI tools. And then reliable data enables predictive maintenance. If you don't have reliable data foundation, you can't begin to do predictive maintenance. There's no magic genie that's going to come out of a lamp and help you run your business more efficiently without that data. Speed drives adoption. If it's easy to use and there's less friction, people are going to use it. QR codes are one of the easiest things for people to identify, recognize how to leverage and use. And if they can see that by scanning it, it automatically gives them the information they need, you're going to start reducing that time to repair. You're going to be able to build some quick wins with team adoption and buy-in, and have fewer problems. And then start small. This may be a daunting task for folks who are maybe at an earlier stage of their reliability journey, a little earlier stage of their digital transformation journey. People asking, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time, right? So start with your critical assets. The next step is you build those standardized processes. Scale what's working across your sites. And if you are more digitally mature, then you can kind of take some bigger leaps and transition from there. But that's sort of the high level of what we want to share today on the takeaways. So, Andi, go for it.
Yeah, I think just remembering that maintenance, it's not a department. It's a business strategy. So what you do is really, really important because it affects the overall unit as a whole. It's what gives you budget numbers. It's what allows you to function. And adopting a CMMS system and utilizing the QR codes, not only for AI and future development, but saving those dollars up front on man hours, creating it where you have a quick workflow, ease of access to those assets, and minimizing budget up front. And I apologize, that's supposed to be on silent. It's just important for your planning and your long-term growth.
Yeah. And quick show of hands, anybody familiar with the concept of total productive maintenance, TPM? Is that familiar? I see a few hands up. It's a fancy acronym for a theory of reliability and maintenance, but the main takeaway, the number one principle that goes under it is maintenance is a responsibility of everybody, right? It's not just the person who wears the hat, facilities manager, it's not just the technician, it's everyone who works in that operation are the eyes and ears. And so even if you're running a small team and you're like, we only got 1 or 2 techs, or whether you're running a large team, it's about how can we engage everybody in that operation and give them an easy conduit and a way to share the things that they're observing. That way you're able to capture the work that needs to be done. And whether or not you can get it done, maybe it's a small issue, it's a paint chip, something that's maybe not something that needs a 10-alarm fire, you at least document it and start to work your way through those reliability issues one at a time. So with that said, wanted to turn it over to the audience here and say, give y'all an opportunity to ask any questions you have. They can be about the presentation, it can be about QR codes, it can be about AI, it can be about what we had for breakfast, whatever y'all feel called to ask. Anything that comes to mind right out of the gate?
We have
Yes,
an
sir.
informed group.
I get a two-part question. First part is, what did you have for breakfast?
I only had a coffee so far.
She's Danish.
James, yeah.
Second question is, how are you uploading your assets to have them linked to the QR code?
Good question.
So whatever CMMS system, and with MaintainX, whether you already have the information in the system or you're looking to input it into the system, most of the time you're using an asset ID. So you can use a serialized or you can do sequential. It's really up to you on where you're at in the journey of your CMMS. If you're going to do a sequential, you're going to be tagging those assets and assigning a number to them and inputting it into the system. Or you're going to send us an Excel file from your CMMS, and then we're going to create those so you can assign the tag or place the tag on the asset.
Yeah, and depending on where you are in your maturity, our team has a full implementation team that comes out and helps either transfer information from an existing system or build that out from scratch for the first time. And then we've got a really easy way to where you get a bunch of QR codes from CAM code. You don't need to have it be like this is already associated with boiler B. You just go slap a QR code on boiler B that fits the specs for it, and then you can connect it through the app. That way you're not having to go and match up every single one. So we try to make it as simple as possible. Yeah.
Thanks.
Good question. Any other questions out there? Yes, sir.
I guess my question has to do with, so what you've been talking about thus far, it reminds me of a really great CMMS presentation.
Yeah.
And having worked with CMMS for a long time and knowing the difference between very well-run CMMS programs and ones that aren't completely populated, there's a lot of pieces missing.
Yeah.
Let's just take a great, very well-run CMMS program. What does AI bring that did not previously specifically exist to the CMMS?
Great question. Yeah. So there's a few things that we're doing on that front right now, and there's a lot we're building into it going forward. The things that are available today that are really useful, I think MaintainX Copilot is something we've launched that gives you the ability to have any technician at their fingertips ask AI, our AI bot, that any questions about equipment that you may have, and that'll be based off of OEM manuals. It'll be based off of your organization's documentation, and it won't hallucinate. So if it doesn't know an answer, it'll actually just say, "There's no answer here. Contact your manager or contact your OEM." And so that power of if any of you all have ever had to look and flip through an old manual, hundreds of pages, and it's never logically ordered. There's always a piece you need on page 64, and the next step's on 128. You're going back and forth. This next generation of the workforce, most of them don't even use paper in school anymore. They're all Chromebooks, right? So it's thinking about how do we bridge that gap for this digitally native generation that's coming into the workforce and give them the tools that they're used to, but in a safe way that's not putting safety at risk or break fix at risk, so your costly repairs. So that's one piece right now that's pretty transformative. Using machine learning to identify your most critical assets based on asset availability or the costs, surfacing insights from your global reporting, whether that's one site or many, making it easier for you to kind of have a data scientist in your pocket, if you will, is something that we're building out and getting more robust functionality on. so that you can identify root cause analysis really easily in real time. And then there's like AI voice transcription. Do any of y'all work in facilities or organizations where there's a multilingual team? Right. So communicating in those organizations is challenging. So if you use AI voice transcription, I can put a voice note in there in English, and then someone can hit it. As soon as someone hits read transcription in their Spanish device, it'll translate it to Spanish, and vice versa. So you can facilitate communications in a way that were previously really challenging. And then just having like anomaly detection, being able to understand, identify and flag issues using AI is another way that we're leveraging it today. And I think there's going to be a lot. I know there are a lot of really exciting opportunities to continue to leverage it as we go forward. And one of the things that we're doing to bridge the gap between most folks who don't have good quality data today and that they need for that AI foundation is building automated workflows with what we call prescriptive maintenance. So we know that there's an E7 error code coming off the Johnson Controls BMS for this machine. Well, rather than just saying E7 error code, we're going to say here are the actual troubleshooting steps for the E7 error code. That in advance from the manuals or documentation so that we can make it faster for the folks to get the information that they need. I think those are some of the ways that we're leveraging it today. And again, it's about not trying to totally change the workflow that people are used to. I'd say another piece that we're doing that's interesting and important to note is like that user adoption, like making it really, really easy to use without requiring any training. I think a lot of those legacy solutions are out there. You got to watch 10, 20, 40 hours of training videos to be able to kind of put the information in correctly the way you need it. And there's a lot of things that we're doing to help support that and make it easier to onboard. So let's say you build you bring in a new piece of equipment. Well, we want to build out procedures for that. We don't want to type them all up. We have AI procedure generators that are able to automatically extract and pull that from your assets today. So those are a few of the ways that we're leveraging it right out of the gate. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So your AI it's not pulling data from the internet. It's only from manufacturers of the units that I have.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so his question is AI pulling from the internet or the manufacturer's documentation? It's the latter. Only documentation that is either OEM or internal company documentation. Yes, sir.
So that's written when you set the system up, that's all written. The guidelines are in there. Can you change it anytime?
They can change depending on the admin. So if the admin wants to update it, anyone you want to give permission to change it. So it can't be some random Yahoo that wants to put something silly in there or inaccurate. It's all guardrailed from that perspective. Yeah. Yes, sir. In the back. Yes, sir.
If, for example, kind of building off of that, is the AI like learning, for example, say you had 21% compressor in it 6 months ago, I would inquire utilizing the AI tool, what's wrong with, I'm hearing battling, could it suggest back like, hey, you had a problem with the compressor 6 months ago, start there, or would it be like you're looking at the maintenance logs based on what you've already input? Just kind of
Yeah, good question. So the question is the AI learning based on the history of the work that's been performed on the asset, or is it kind of fresh start? That's sort of like the next iteration of our product that's coming out probably in the next month or two. It's very, very close. Where it is, we're already beta testing it, is reviewing all of the work history that's been done so I can say, why is this, before maybe there's an issue that comes up. I can say, well, last shift or yesterday, Larry changed the bearings on this or the filter on this. That if he used the wrong size filter or the wrong size, that could be the first place we should check, given that this was just worked on a day or two ago. Or we changed this compressor 6 months ago. It's still under warranty, and it looks like the compressor's out. You'll need a new compressor, but also contact your OEM to make sure you get, a renew. You don't pay double for that. Those are the sort of things that these tools are going to start to provide. So that's something, again, an experienced technician might have in his head and know, but it's about how do we help that next generation come in and who doesn't even know to ask those questions. I didn't know these are warranted parts. We want to be able to surface that information to folks at the right time. Yes, sir. Any other questions, comments, concerns, feedback? One thing I was talking with Andi about before this as well is I didn't realize that, and it makes a total sense, is that you have to have like there are food safe labels too, and so this is something about QR codes that I learned just talking with her.
Yeah, and depending on what department you're in, we want to keep you FDA compliant. We want to keep you compliant for, like I said, funding, depending on the different assets that you're utilizing. So it's important to, again, understand the substrate, what you're working with, and then utilizing the correct material when applying the tags. I think one of the things that separates CAM Code from other tag companies is we're also making our tags without an ink. So whenever these go on, they're not fading. When you wipe them down in your lunchrooms or in your lab, you're not going to be taking the ink off. The material is actually holding that information. So if you think kind of like a photography class, the image is inside the tag itself. But it's just, again, making sure you're using the proper tag for the proper substrate.
So again, it all ties in together to where if you're.
Question over here.
Yeah, question over here. Oh, I can't see. Go for it.
That's a good point about labeling for food safe areas. Do the labels themselves have some kind of stamp or to make sure that we're meeting the requirements?
Yeah, so whenever you are working with us and we know, and again, it's conversation, letting us know where these are going, what they are for. I've worked with a lot of companies who manufacture food, and so whenever we are having the conversation of, hey, you're in an environment that's going to require a stainless steel because it's an FDA requirement, it doesn't, harbor bacteria or growth. Yes, we can assist with that.
Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And as we think about like what the AI element of that can be is it's, you may have some assets that are effectively the same, but one's in a clean room or in an FDA, a room that has different certifications. And if you're standardizing the way that those are captured, if you're using a tool that's able to recognize that there's a distinction there, you can incorporate, different protocols for how those assets are serviced or worked on based on, to help you make sure that your team's compliant so that as your technicians going from environment to environment, they may not, they may not be aware that there's a couple of extra steps that are required. And so being able to kind of make sure that you're tagging those things correctly and tracking that is really important to making sure that you stay compliant and you don't lose your funding, you don't lose your license, all the other bad things you can lose or be fined for. Yeah. Awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell me a little bit more about AIR AI? Did you say AIR IA for the translation?
Oh, yeah, so AI transcription, voice transcription.
Okay.
Yeah. So being able to leave a voice note. So I don't know if y'all ever sent a voice note with like your text message service and things like that. So just being able to speak into it. I'm not the best speller always, right on the first try. And autocorrect seems to make me worse sometimes. But AI transcription allows you to just speak into the phone, speak into your work order, so you can share any work order notes, things like that, and have that. Then if you're tired of listening to me and you don't want to listen to that, you can just hit transcription, even if you speak English, and just read out what I said. Or maybe you're not in an environment where it's too loud to hear me, so you can hit that transcription and do that as well. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
On that same note, so does the AI, like some of my texts, they don't speak correctly, so will
Yeah.
it correct the sentencing, or?
So some of the texts don't speak correctly. Will it correct their sentence? Not. We try to be as accurate as we can with what they're saying. And so it may be that, that's Joe Bob. He's, I can read the way, I can hear him just by the way it's being written out. I can hear the way he talks.
And also converts it into
As closely, as it can to the words he's sharing and saying. And part of that's a safety issue, right? I don't want.
like give the option, like when he's looking at the text, does he get to see the text? And then, like,
He can once he sends it.
corrections on it right there, so you can do it. No.
Not right away, but in the follow-up note you can. So it's You can say, oh, I meant to say, yeah. Well, we want to be really, so that's a real good question. It's like, how much do you want AI to help? Assume what you mean versus what you don't, making those judgment calls, right? Right. Yeah. So there's some ways where that can be done. But yeah, it's definitely it's a tricky part. Even language translation overall is still kind of a legally gray area, particularly as it relates to a safety issue. If something happens, how does that fall, roll out? So it's we try to be we try to side on the side of conservative releases with our products. So we have a lot of really exciting AI products and features that we're building, and we've that we haven't released. That in part because we want to make sure that this is an industry that requires trust if things don't work, and it's not just a matter of getting a cat video wrong or something. It's a matter of in some instances that there are real safety hazards or real expensive equipment that can go down. So we try to be battle tested before we go out, and this is one and for the vast majority of the folks that are in these environments, you don't want to be on the bleeding edge of any of this technology because it has a proclivity to be wrong, more at a tolerance level that you wouldn't accept your technicians to be wrong. So we want to make sure that we're constantly kind of being a little bit extra careful with that in mind. And so as we move forward to the next sort of iteration or two from this, you'll see that rapidly improve as we get more data and understand how to keep it safe. Yeah, it's a good question. Yes, sir.
So I have a lot of outside vendors that come in and do maintenance.
Yeah.
So they do their own maintenance and record keeping. And so how does that integrate with your system? Would they have to do two separate reports that are basically duplicates, or how does that work?
Yeah, good question. Questions on vendors, external vendors. How does that work? This is actually one of the biggest issues I see across this industry overall is that folks are paying these external vendors to come in and service their equipment, and then they actually don't really do a good job of keeping a history of the asset work that's been performed, which is crazy. You're paying for the work, you're paying for all that data, and you're not getting it. And so then it actually begs the question, how do we build this AI foundation if we don't even have, if that data lives in our email inbox, and maybe we got a history of it all, maybe we print it out, we put it in a file cabinet. Well, there's no AI learning on the file cabinet, right? So the question is, does it work within our system? Well, the way we have our system set up is that external vendors can immediately see just the work orders that are assigned to them, and they can even do that when they go and scan the QR code. They'll be able to access that work that is just assigned to them, so they can't see the work history as it relates to other teams, other people in your facility. They can't see any information that might be proprietary. But they'll be able to perform the work directly within our product. That way it's recorded and logged within MaintainX. And let's say they've got a separate system where they build out the invoice and this and that. They can even upload and import that into the system, so you've got it right there in your record. So that way you're getting a full record history of all of the work that's being performed that you're paying for in your system, so that and that may be, and that often is for folks that start doing this, it's a significant opportunity to identify where your capital is going, where your resources are going, that isn't necessarily easy to, you may have a gut intuition that's where it's going, but without it all sitting there in the same spot, it's really hard to kind of connect those dots. And so that's one of my, if your system doesn't currently make it easy for those external vendors to capture that, and then make it easy for the internal management teams to review it, major opportunity for serious improvement right out of the gate. Good question. Yes, sir.
What about, how is this technology expected to work or going to work with air gap sites?
Yeah, how is it going to work with air gap sites? So, a couple of ways that happens. We for sites that don't have good connectivity, we do have an offline mode where it comes off. I know that's not your air gap's a little different, but we do have the ability to work offline, and then as soon as it touches Wi-Fi again or signal, it'll sync and all that'll be cached. For air gap sites, some air gap sites allow you to have devices that are dedicated to the internal areas, and you can put it onto those systems. We can put restrictions in place within our product specifically that we work with some clients that they are not allowed to take photos internally. They can't have any pictures taken from internal or external devices for all sorts of different security reasons. So those some things that can be feature flagged on and off to make sure that it's not even an option.
But the AI functionality would still, everything you're talking about that you would bring to this technology would still work.
That's right.
Still provide the same thing at an air gap location?
Yeah. Yeah, and we work with your IT team as well to make sure that they have the comfort level that they need to understand how we structure that data and make sure that it's not at risk. And if they think that some of it, even if they believe it's not at risk, there's some pieces that can't go in there, we can also say, hey, we will do it without that. You know, we work with like some healthcare facilities where, like, are you HIPAA compliant? And I'm like, why do we need to be HIPAA compliant? I'm like, well, what about, you know, how are we supposed to label our rooms and all this and that? And it's like, well, it shouldn't be Mrs. Johnson's room. It should be room 101. No more HIPAA issues, right? So it's about thinking intelligently around what sort of data you put into the system versus what data you don't put in the system to make sure you don't run into compliance or data regulation issues. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Is there a future for using AI to marry our CMMS with other scheduling systems, for instance, an airport flight management system?
Yeah.